Welcome to He Vibes and She Dives with
Timber.
And I am Lady Drasmin. We are your hosts here on this beautiful show where we talk spirituality, higher magic, and anchoring the new Now Earth timeline. So every 3 weeks we pick a new topic and we discuss it over a pot of cacao. We have a beautiful Mayan cacao here today, a fresh brew. And I'm so curious to see what our topic for today is. If you are new, welcome to this little online community. If you are returning, welcome back. Thank you for showing up, your continued presence and support. Thank you everyone for your likes, your shares, your comments, your feedback. And if you are new here, we pick a topic, we free flow what comes through for it. And then next week, Timber will share his insights. And then the following week, I will channel what wants to come through, and then we repeat the process every 3 weeks. So
It's your turn to pick.
Is it?
It is.
Are
I
you
picked
sure?
last time.
Oh my gosh. All right. Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it.
Shake like a Polaroid.
I don't know. Okay. All right.
Here we go.
Why do you feel scared all of a sudden?
Oh my God. Deconstructing the spiritual ego, bypassing appropriation and judging. Wow.
Okay.
Okay, well.
Deconstructing the spiritual ego, bypassing and appropriation. The judgments that arise. This is very in tune right now.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I think it's time for us to speak truth. Are you ready? I think we're going to need some...
I think I'm going to get kicked out of Oregon sooner than later after this one.
Please. It's time. It is, we've been speaking truth, and those who resonate do, and those who don't, well, you are not listening. So if you're listening, thanks for being willing to sit in the discomfort and look at what comes up for you as we dive into this topic. So first...
Yeah, seriously. Burn some fingertips.
Yes, burn some fingertips, connect our hearts. This is a good
hot.
brew.
Very good, very hot.
The dragon in me is like,
The lion in me just burned his paws.
like, I'm not amused.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. I'm gonna let you jumpstart.
No, I picked the topic. You gotta start this. Oh my gosh. Okay, so
I'm trying to figure out even where to begin in the framework.
right. Like, I feel that. Let's start with some breath. Let's start with some cleansing breaths and some humming to activate the voice. And I'm inviting you to also breathe with us, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. We always clear the energy field before we hit record, but I'm feeling a little bit more needed right now around myself and this block all of a sudden that I feel around speaking into this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going to one seminar or workshop does not make you a spiritual leader. Does not make you a Reiki master. Does not make you a priest. Does not make you a priestess. Does not make you a shaman. Does not give you the authority to go and tap into other people's energy fields and to work on them. And if you think otherwise, you're welcome to sign out. There is a process to development. Babies come out of the womb and they're basically helpless. They can't even hold their heads up. And in the same way as we evolve in our consciousness, we go through stages where we are helpless. or there's the perception of helplessness. And so we go to different guides and teachers, and we receive activations and blessings. And it reminds us of our power. It reminds us of our potential. We have visions. We see possibilities of what might be. And in today's world, there is that instant gratification of, well, I feel empowered, so now I'm going to go and share this power. But there hasn't been time to integrate that into the human experience. And that's where the ego comes in and can really create a lot of damage, not just for yourself, but for the people that you start connecting with and laying hands on and doing work with. If there's like a lot of my clients who come to me are fractured in their consciousness because they've gone and done medicine journeys, but they haven't received proper integration support, because they've gone and done cord cutting, but they're still literally fucking around and not in charge of their sexual energy. There is people in the spiritual community, actual priestesses who are out there with their portals wide open, sharing sexual energy, but not doing the work of the emotional, mental, physical responsibility that they hold in their power. So when we talk about spiritual ego, when I think of that word, I think what comes to mind is a lack of integrity. You haven't integrated your shadow. You haven't accepted that you, as a sovereign in the human experience, are prone to temptation. That we are in a world that is filled with density and darkness that continues to present illusions of comfort. And instead of seeing those temptations, seeing those illusions, stories get created of, oh, well, this could be a pathway for healing. This could be a pathway for me to grow my spiritual gifts. This could be a pathway to, becoming the master by creating more karma. That is not mastery, people. True mastery happens when you sit with yourself and you sit with the discomfort of loneliness, of rejection, of isolation, of what it means to be the person in the room who stands up and does the right thing and says what needs to be said. And if everybody walks out, being okay with that. So there's a bypassing around personal responsibility, and then judgment arises from, well, they're doing it this way, and they're doing it this way, and they, he, she, they said, instead of I. And once we reclaim the I am presence, then we can really tap into, where am I leaking my power and placing it outside of me and making an experience, a person, a situation responsible for the fuckery that I'm creating, that I'm just ignoring, because it's easier to just focus on the light and the easy stuff, on the pleasure, on the experience of ecstasy. Who doesn't like orgasms? I do. I love them. I think they're great. Like, I can be a freak in the sheets. I'm not ashamed to admit it. But there is a responsibility that I also hold to my spiritual power as a fucking human being. There's like, one of the big things that I notice, especially in spiritual communities, and this is what really gets my goat, is when I'm speaking as a spiritual leader to spiritual leaders, because that's, where we're at. We're in this realm of spirituality. Spiritual leaders who are quote unquote in leadership, and they're not honoring the sexual energy, or beings who are working on discovering their roles and are in initiations and mentorship and so on and so forth, doing sessions, but they're still leaking their energy and power. And I'm not saying don't have sex. I'm saying recognize that engaging sexually with someone karmically requires responsibility of how are you engaging with the emotions, how are you engaging with the thoughts, how are you engaging with whatever shadows that person that you're connected to and whatever they're connected to. Like, I was literally having a conversation with a sister a couple days ago around this pattern that her and I have observed in our community of men and women bouncing from one relationship to another and not really giving themselves the time to literally clear their energy field, which can take months, depending on what that person is connected to and attached to, and you don't really know. You can spend your entire life with a person and still not know their honest truth because they've chosen not to share that with you, because they've chosen to wear masks because of doesn't fucking matter what reason. And what I find also astonishing about sexual energy is when two people engage in sexual energy and there's children involved. Because not only are you engaging with this other person sexually, now you're creating this bond that the child feels, and now it brings this karmic confusion into the child's life, who doesn't understand and who sees a person playing family. And then that person exits, and then it creates fracture in the child's consciousness. They have not experienced healthy, empowered relating between a man and a woman, or a woman and a woman, or a man and a man. I'm all for, love is love. And a lot of the bypassing happens within that sexual power, in my witness and experience, because it requires integrity, and it is not easy to walk the path of integrity and say, no, I desire you. Oh my God, I would love to throw you against the wall. That is not the responsible thing to do, because I see more than the lust. I see more than the ecstasy. I see more than the high that I get from going on this journey, whether it's a medicine journey or a sexual experience or an activation or initiation. And my clientele are very far and few in between, because one of the requirements that I have for client work that I do is integration, is no sharing of sexual energy. And it really upsets a lot of people when I tell them that. After I do work on you, it's like surgery. Don't have sex. They're like, but I'm their partner. I'm like, I don't give a flying fuck if they're the Queen of England. Don't have sex, because you are healing. When you are healing, when you are integrating, you need to be really, really mindful of the sexual energy that is being shared, because that energy is the energy of creation. And it is the energy that either creates life or creates destruction. And there is an abuse of power in our world today because sexual energy has been weaponized. It has been taken from this divine, sacred exchange that is used to create life, to heal, to amplify blessings, it feels good in the moment, but let's not consider all of the other things that might ripple out and affect in the greater whole. Because there's a selfishness, a childishness that isn't addressed. So often the judgments that arise within us about others are really about ourselves. We judge others, we project onto others what we might feel or have thoughts of for ourselves. So I'll pause here, and I would love for you to speak into this.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. I need to reread this. Deconstructing the spiritual ego. Okay, so like for me, I remember when I was younger, and I was always very anti-Christian. I always saw anyone organized religion, I was just like, oh, they're a bunch of sheep. And that was just my perspective. And I remember an elder, she called me out, and she's just like, you're very much in spiritual ego. And I was like, what does that even mean? And when she broke it down, it humbled me. And I still struggle with that today, honestly. I mean, I still have a hard time with the organized religion, and I still have a hard time not putting my projections and my feels onto those that walk certain paths. While also those are judging me for how I walk my path. So it's, you know, so it's always a constant reminder for me to not judge them if I don't want them to judge me. You know what I mean? So it's just like, this whole spiritual ego thing is like...
How did she break it down to you?
Wow, I was young. And we were in conversation, and I was just saying something like, we were talking about more in the indigenous cultures and like the ceremonies and stuff. And I was like, yeah, and then blah, 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 the Christians and all this and this and this. And she's like, I need a pause, stop right there. And she's just like, you realize you're out of harmony within, like you're not, that's not being in your divine. You know, she's like, that's spiritual ego. And then she broke it down, and I was just like, oh. And I see that a lot, especially in amongst the communities. But the point of the story of that too, though, is like we all have it to a certain point. And it's just a matter of awareness and trying to catch ourselves.
Yeah.
And to do the best we can, not to judge or pass it on to others, but we're still human beings, and we still have these traumas and past things that surface. So it's having grace and having humility, and realizing that not every situation is the same. You know, what teachings and perspectives work for one situation doesn't always work for the next and the next. You know, and there's always more to certain things. So it's always fascinating to just kind of step back and try to have hawk perspective and just like not be so knee deep in the moment, but just step back and just be like, do I have spiritual ego? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in summation, you know, spiritual ego for me is just not taking personal responsibility for not just the thought and the action in the moment, but the ripple effects that it has. Yeah.
Like in my situation, it was awareness. I didn't have the awareness. You know what I mean? It's just like I had my own prejudgments. That was my awareness. But I needed... So it's a dangerous realm. You know, whether people are religious or not, it's just like, you know, it's almost like Christians or Mormons, and they come to your door and they're like, well, if you don't believe what I believe, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is spiritual ego to the
Jesus
max.
is not the only way, truth, and life.
You know? So it's just like, so that is spiritual ego. You know, to think that what I believe is better than everybody else.
Right.
And it's just like, you know, to each their own. Everyone has their path of what they need to learn and experience. So who am I to say? And I'm still, again, working on that all the time. And being out here, I've kind of dubbed the spiritual community Coachella spiritualism, because it just feels very much like they look the part, they act the part, but like when it comes down to confrontation,
they're not embodied.
And when it talks to, when it goes into like having that shadow, those shadow realm talks, you know, like that doesn't. I don't see that as much as it is needed. So it's interesting. It's more like...
Yeah, and then, you know, that brings me into like the topic of appropriation. As an Indian woman, as a tantrika, as a yogini by blood, I don't go to any of the yoga studios in town because there's not a single yoga studio in town that has a brown teacher in there. And every time I ask, Where are the brown teachers? The response that I get, the most common response is like, well, I'm trained in Hatha yoga. I'm like, I don't care if you went to the Himalayas to train. Where are the brown people in the yoga community? Where are the brown people in the Tantra community? This is my lineage. This is not your lineage. And again, that's part of that bypassing, right? And I don't feel like it's judgmental of me to call someone out on my lineage, depending on how I choose to approach that.
Yeah.
And the language that I use, right? Like it's so important to be in awareness of the language that we use on how we communicate and how we express. But mantras and affirmations are not the same thing. An affirmation is a phrase that helps you shift from a low vibration into a higher vibration. A mantra is one part of a 5-part closed practice in Indian spirituality. Okay? The chakras are energy centers in the body that are like, it's like the different breakers in your power box. You know, you don't want to be fucking with that and not know what you're doing in that. You know, I remember a few years ago, I was at a party and there were a couple people there and this young white girl, and I say that in just bringing awareness, not in a way of like race, like that white girl, like this young white woman went to one of the guests and laid hands on her and started doing Reiki on her and awakened her Kundalini. And 4 years later, this woman who had her Kundalini awakened, and I stepped in that moment because I have gone through initiations and taken vows to step the fuck up. It's like I'm a doctor, you know. If a doctor sees someone hurting, they've taken vows to like fucking take care of that, put their shit aside and take care of the patient who might be dying right there. And in the spiritual world, I am like a doctor. I see something in my presence. I have a karmic responsibility to step the fuck up and do something about it within reason. So I stepped in and I contained her energy and I was able to help her ground in. But 4+ years later, she's still not okay.
Yeah. I remember a buddy of mine who's a shaman too. He was invited to a ceremony and this guy claimed that it was an ayahuasca ceremony. And he claimed that he was a shaman and he knew how to do. And he was in there and he spent the whole time cleaning up that other person's mess because the other person didn't realize how to handle everyone's soul in that environment, how to protect it from being their souls being attacked. And there's so much more than beyond what we see. And so like what you're saying, you know, it's just like we're seeing that more and more, especially these days. And it's getting muddy, but at the same time, I'm also trying to have compassion for some of that because 20 years ago, a lot of this wasn't talked about. And so I get that there's a lot of newbies, and you and me were raised in a generation where we did the studies. We had to go find books. We had to go find teachers.
Literal fucking books.
We had to go find that. It wasn't a TikTok thing on ayahuasca or whatever, or like a weekend retreat. And it's just like, but like I'm saying, like a lot of those ceremonies are very much needed for humans.
They are.
Very much, but I personally will not do an ayahuasca ceremony or a ceremony like that unless I know the person leading it knows what they're doing. That's just me personally. Yeah. But that's because I'm aware of that. You know, so a lot of people aren't aware and they need that education.
And also with that, you know, yes, there's a piece of awareness. Yes, there's a piece of compassion, but there's also a line where we have to speak our truth and then we have to not tolerate the bypassing and the appropriation. And over a year later, I went to this woman who did this activation and I attempted to communicate with her and she blocked me on socials, right? And I have been cast out of 3 covens here in this town. I was not allowed to return to the Tantra circles in Portland because I spoke into the appropriation and the bypassing that I was witnessing. I was raped in one of the Tantra events that I went to, and I went to the organizer and nothing was done about it. The response that I received from this masseuse was, if I didn't do it this way, how would you learn? So like there is this deep fracture in human consciousness right now. And I was engaging with a sister last night who was like telling me, she's like, I'm so tapped into my gifts. I have visions. I get downloads all the time, but I can't seem to get my life in order.
Yeah.
People, you're in a fucking physical body. You got to take care of the body first. Like you wouldn't have any of these activations and stuff happening, downloads coming through if you didn't have a body. So you need to take care of your body. Like it's so rudimentary, but it is the quote unquote missing piece that isn't allowing that higher evolution of our species to unfold into. Because it's like, oh, let's just do ayahuasca every week. You do not need to do ayahuasca every week.
No.
Integration happens sober. And somebody asked me this a couple days ago and they said, what about microdosing? I'm like, great question. Yes, open to microdosing, but you're still engaging with that medicine and working with it. The integration always happens sober. All my elders, the true elders that I sat with, every shaman that I sat with, integration always happens sober because you were born sober. Theoretically, I know there are some babies who have come in through wombs of mothers that were in deep addiction, but you come into consciousness as purity and innocence. And then you go through life or you inherit stuff and you might need some tools, some plant medicines, a psychic surgery, an activation, an initiation, whatever. But you're not always going to be healing. You're not always going to be working through stuff. Eventually you reach a point where you've unlearned, because that's really what healing is. It's really unlearning a lot.
Yeah.
You eventually reach a point where you've unlearned and you come back to that place of purity and innocence within you, and then you strengthen that. And that is that point right there where I feel the ego comes in. It's like you've cleared, you've unlearned, now is the work of really standing in your truth, of facing those shadows that come up and say, oh, well, I can just sit there and like hum this mantra, Rama, Dasa, Sase, Sohang, and all my chakras are aligned. I'm like, that's, but then you're eating sugar, you're eating junk, you're sleeping around, you're, having cuddle puddles, you're sleeping in your bed with your clothes that you were out in the street, your shoes that were in a public toilet or on your couch. It's like, again, there is this like key piece of integrating the human experience. And I get it, a lot of, you and I and many beings who connect to this channel are starseeds. So we feel alien in this earth.
Yeah.
But that is our assignment, is to discover home within ourselves and then for that to create itself in our reality. I was in that timeline for a long time where I was like constantly searching and looking for the next teacher, the next fix, the next high. And I was feeding that energy of addiction. I was feeding that need for validation. I was feeding that ego that needed like, I got you, everything's nice and everything's soft and everything's so sweet and so yummy. And I was fucking drowning in hypocrisy. Surrounded by, like you said, you look the part and you dress the part and you wear the part. And I was there at one point. I have a photo of me and I look back at it and I'm like, oh my God, child, what were you thinking? But I have like 17 crystals on and a mala and like feathers in my hair, and like rings all in my hands. And I'm like sitting there praying at a music festival. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so enlightened. And I look back on that, I'm like, God, but I'm grateful for that experience because then it helped me come to where I'm at.
It'd be funny to do a side by side, be like, before shadow work, after shadow
Oh my
work.
gosh, that's such a great meme. I love that. Yes.
But that's how my brain went, because I get it, you know? It's like, I think about like, because me and my ex 2 years ago accidentally turned our Kundalini on. It wasn't intentional, it was through sex, and we ended up getting cosmically married and everything, and I've been trying to get out of that marriage, and apparently they won't let me. The universe won't undo that. Anyways, but like, my point is like, before then, like, I was always like you. Like, I was always watching YouTube videos and podcasts. I was like absorbing all the information I could. And then all of a sudden, like, I can't, still to this day, like, I can barely get on social media anymore for like more than like 3 minutes, and I'm overwhelmed. But I can't listen to things like that. And my point is like, I've had to learn to sit in the silence in all the discomforts, and I've had to learn to like hear my thoughts and hear all the things that I don't want to listen to. But it's also like,
it's super fucking uncomfortable because it's such a quote unquote uncommon thing in the world. It's more common to, you know, dress scantily and like dance and cuddle and like have fun activities, but to just sit there in silence. Seriously. And face it.
Or like yesterday, I was literally at the gym. I was fucking listening to Metallica, like in the middle of my workout, and I was just like moving my head, and all of a sudden I'm crying while I'm working out. And it's just, I'm huge on feeling my feels, especially when they arise. They're there for a reason. It doesn't always have to make sense,
right?
But they're there for a reason.
Absolutely.
But it's like being quiet and in the uncomfy. It gives, like you said, the integration. That's the, like, where you start.
That's the true medicine.
Yeah, because old aspects of who you are and what you thought you were are dying off. And you have to sit with that and be like, well, what is real? What isn't? Where did that even come from? Why do I do this? And that's the medicine.
Tears cleanse the soul. Absolutely. And appropriation, you know, it happens because we're not wanting to face ourselves, our lineage, the traumas in our ancestry. Well, let's just take this and plaster it on and pretend to be this like divine being. Well, you know, you might be deluding yourself, but God, goddess, see and know all. And the higher level shamans and magicians and priestesses, they'll see right through you.
Yeah.
You come to them, it's like, okay. I just, you know, I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago of when I first created my first set of runes. And I created my first set of runes with a woman who is of the lineage. And it was a really beautiful ceremony that we did. We each had a set, and then we divided it and alternated the runes. I created mine on stones, she created hers on shells, and we split the runes. And so I have like a mixture of stones and shells, and she has a mixture of stones. It was really beautiful, but I received that activation of the Ogam keys through someone who is of that lineage. And I sat with the runes for 3 years while this woman was in my energy field. And then I felt called to put them away. And I haven't really played with the runes since. Like, I still channel the Ogam when I sing. I still paint runes on my face. But I'm very quiet about certain practices that I use in my everyday life because they're not my lineage. Right? And so I bring that up in a way of saying, it's okay if you take from other cultures and incorporate it into your practices. But there is a fine line between using that for self and pretending to be a master in something that you're very fucking obviously not. And the only person you're deluding is really yourself. Because a true master will see right through you, and they won't laugh at your face, hopefully, but they're gonna laugh, and that's not judgment. That's just like, wow, you're really silly. And there's, you know, judgments are what help us develop our stamina. Like, we have to make judgment calls every day. Is this aligned for me? Is this not, right? Like, sometimes we think of judgments and we think of like damnation, right? But that's not always what judgment is. Judgment is just like making those empowered decisions on what is and is not okay for self primarily. Not making those decisions for another And I've recently I definitely went through another like big ego death recently around difference of opinions of how we approach devotion. With someone I was dating recently, and the differences was so vast that I had to shift my energy away from this connection. And that was difficult for me because, you know, that was put into question to me. It's like their response to my discipline around devotion was it doesn't need to be so strict. And I had to sit with that. Like, okay, I see where you're coming from. For most people, possibly true. For me, where I stand in my life, it is non-negotiable to be so disciplined with my rituals and practices and ceremonies, because I do lead ceremonies. I am responsible for people's energy when they come into my temple home. I am a dream walker. So I do have to cultivate consistency and discipline with my practices, and continuously like receive the critiques that I get from people, because it helps keep me humble. And that's a big sign, you know, if you're like, well, am I in spiritual ego? Am I not? Instead of asking yourself that question, ask yourself, am I humble enough to hear somebody else's perspective without becoming defensive?
Yeah, and be willing to sit with it.
And sit with it, and then take what's true and say, okay, I heard what you said. I sat with myself. I know where I stand, so I disagree, but I can still respect you for your truth and your honesty. Mm-hmm. Right? It comes down to, are you willing to listen, to understand? Because we truly only grow in the mirror of relating. And are you willing to adjust how you show up in the world? Whether you're a spiritual leader or not, it doesn't matter, right? If you are not the solution, you're the problem. It's really that fucking black and white. So either you're actively working on restoring the divine blueprint within yourself, and that naturally and automatically ripples out into the world as a man, as a woman, as a father, as a mother, as a lover, as a friend, doesn't fucking matter, whatever roles you're in, or are you not? And if you're not, then you're an ego. It's that fucking simple. Spiritual ego, or whatever ego you want to call it. The last thing I want to say about the ego before I give it over to you is the word my. The ego does not belong to you. It's just a collective energy. But every time you say my ego, you've created an attachment loop. The ego doesn't belong to you. You came into the world without the ego, and the ego, an acronym, because you all know I love acronyms, is everyone's good opinion. Edges goodness out, edges your godness out, edges your goddess out. Everyone's good opinion coming at you, edges your goodness out, edges your godness out, edges your goodliness out. So it's like, okay, here is the ego, here's everyone's good opinion. They have their own perspective, they have their own judgments, they have their own experiences. Thank you for sharing your life and your thoughts with me. But is it edging my goodness out, or is it amplifying me?
Yeah, well said. Gratitude. I'll get you some more.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much to it all. And
I believe you were the one who brought this topic into the bowl when you mentioned Coachella spiritualism, which I just started fucking laughing, because the first thing I thought of when you said that was Burning Man, which is, I've never gone to Burning Man, and I've heard a lot of good things, and I've applied to go a few times. But any kind of spiritual event that demands that you pay thousands of dollars to go and experience community is a little disgusting to me.
It changed everything. I went once, and it changed.
Tell us about your experience, since I don't have that Burning Man experience, but that's what came up to me when you were like Coachella spirituality. I couldn't help but think of Burning Man.
Yeah, because if you think about like, if you take the money situation out of the equation, because when you get, it costs money to get there, it is expensive to do it. It's, I mean, because like you're in extreme fucking weather.
Right.
You cannot be, you need to be honest with yourself about the fact that that desert is not kind.
The desert is not kind ever.
And wind and like all the things. So it takes money to get the right gear, food, and all the things, and to get in. But it's almost like, in my mind, it's almost like if I were to go, even if you admit or want to go to a ceremony or something, even if it doesn't cost a lot of money, it's still like the energetic exchange. You know, so whether it's money or whatnot. So yeah, it costs, but the reward from it is this: you literally watch human beings create a whole city out of nowhere, have this experience, and then it's gone. After it's so clean afterwards, and it's just like it reminds me of like the monks that do the beautiful artwork, and then they do the prayer, and then they sweep it. You know, that's what it feels like. But for me, I was so it was the first time that I was naked in public. And my partner at the time, we had that connection to where we were able to have sexual connections out in public. And that was new for me, to be seen with that. That was totally different. But I worked with jealousy, I worked with the weather, I worked with, like, there's so many things perspectives that are just, but one of the things that besides Burning Man, but like, I notice is that, and I've been sitting with this, is how a lot of the spiritual people I know, especially in Oregon, the drug use.
Oh my God, yes.
And it's interesting to me because I'm not trying to judge. Like me personally, I have a hard time with drugs and alcohol because my dad abused me on those things. And I've had exes where situations have gone really bad with the drugs. So anyways, but I've noticed out here that it's amazing how many are like always doing like you said, plant ceremony, or they're microdosing all the time, or they're still doing cocaine, they're still doing ketamine, they're doing, which again, if that's what works for them, go for it. Go for it. You know, it's just, it's us trying to figure out who we are. And I get it. Being human is fucking messy. And sometimes we have to get really fucking messy to get the clarity we need. So
have that container and be messy, but don't go sharing your energy with other people when you're in that discovery and unfolding is what I have a really hard time with, because as a quantum seer, I'm constantly cleaning up. Like I sweep this and I go to work on here, and then it's like I turn around and it's 5 times the fucking mess. And I'm exhausted. And I'm not the only one. I work with other high priestesses and quantum seers, and they're like, dude, like 90% of my time in dream space is just cleaning up the fucking mess.
Wow.
How can we evolve? How can we anchor the new now Earth timeline if 90+% of our energy is going in just fucking cleanup? I'm not a fucking cleanup crew. I'm an energy master, but I have to clean up so that I can do my work. But it's like I spend so much more of my time and energy doing that. So it's like, I love that you shared that there's beautiful experiences. I haven't gone to Burning Man, it just hasn't aligned. But from what I've experienced of the people that go to Burning Man, and not all of them, but most of them, there is a lot of that ego. There's that cliquiness to it.
Yeah, and it can be that way, you know, like cliques and stuff. But it also makes me just wonder if that's just human beings in general. Like that whole saying, like, our vibe attracts our tribe. You know, it's like whether we want to admit it or not, that's still us finding that our people. So I mean, I get it. So like the Burning Man people, that's their people.
My question is, why can't we do that in everyday life?
Well, that's easy. They don't want us to.
And that's my point, right? That's my point. It's like, let's create this big event, Burning Man, Oregon Country Fest, Beloved, Lightning in a Bottle, you know, all these music festivals, and let's spend a ton of money. But when we exit the party vibes and go back to real life, we're just going to pretend that we're these people instead of integrating that.
Yeah. I think integration, the more I think about integration, the more I feel like that needs to be taught more than a lot of other spiritual practices these days. Because, you know, you can always, like, there's always the the self-help, like on Instagram, you always see the spiritual teachers, and they always just like you said, you're powerful today. You're this.
Mm-hmm.
It's all like the love and the light, which we need. Mm-hmm. Granted, we do need that. Mm-hmm. However, I want to see more of the videos of them also being like, well, today I want to talk about integration on when you go through this situation, here's some practices for integration following going through a plant ceremony, going through a breakup, going through this,
grief.
going through the things.
The processing of grief is a big topic that isn't addressed, because that's ultimately like the highest emotion that comes up when we go through these journeys. Is we start to see aspects of ourselves that have been lost. And nothing is ever truly lost. Like, we can reclaim everything, right? And then that brings up grief. We see where we have consented, but not from our empowerment. We've consented from obligation, from expectation. I remember when I learned about the frozen yes, like, it fucking cracked me open. And it was at that Tantra festival that I mentioned. And I was like, what the fuck is the frozen yes? And it's that yes that we say when we don't really have a good reason to say no. It's like, okay, I guess we're in a relationship, so I'm gonna say yes to this thing that you want to do. Oh, I guess we're friends, I'm gonna say yes. You know, it's that frozen yes. It's like, I don't really have a good reason to say no, so I guess I'm gonna say yes. That's not an empowered yes. And when I learned that, I was like, oh fuck.
That's a tough one.
It is.
Because, like, you know, I'm a people pleaser just because I grew up unsafe. So, and feeling unworthy my whole life. Could never do anything right. So it's like, I'd always go out of my way to try to get that validation of, I am fuck up this time. Or I'm trying to help people. But learning how to say no has been really challenging for me, because I've always been that person that just helps anybody and everybody.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
But yeah, so I'm learning to find that I'm trying to find that harmony, and like, and just realize that, like, lately I don't have the energy to help people anymore like I used to.
Right.
I'm busy trying to get myself up and moving and doing my things every single day.
That's that point of collapse that eventually will trigger. I mean, it's going to happen, right? If you just keep people pleasing, if you just keep bypassing, if you just keep pretending to be something and someone that you're not, eventually it's going to catch up. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. It's like, do I want to help my friends and people? Of course I do.
But you've become so depleted because you weren't integrated. You didn't have those practices of how to fucking protect your energy field when you do work on someone else. I mean, I was in the medical field. You know, we were both in the medical field for years, and I had a late night massage client last night. I don't do massage anymore, and it was just like very last minute. I had energy. I was like, okay, I can do a 45-minute session. And as I was massaging this person, I was like, damn, I'm really good. Like, I've been doing massage for almost 30 years. And then it got me thinking of, like, when I worked in the medical field, when I had other massage clients, before I tapped into my spiritual awakening, you know, people would come to me and they're like, wow, that is one of the best massages I've ever had in my life. And I never understood why. But I reached a point where I hit collapse. I was depleted, I was depressed, I was tired, I was angry. My body was literally falling apart. I was getting into accidents all the time, losing hair and nails, and you lost a toe, you know? So it's like, I had this aha moment of like, it's because I was giving, but I was giving from my container that was full of fucking holes, instead of pouring from my container to others.
There's a difference.
There's a huge fucking difference, right? And so that's part of like that integration piece. And thank you for bringing that up on like what is needed in our world right now. We don't need any more ceremonies. It makes me think of something a sister said to me over a year ago, and we were like talking about having a ceremony, and she's like, I don't need any more fucking ceremonies. They're coming out of my ass. I need money. I need money right now. And I was just like laughing because she was so frustrated. But that, you know, I think of that in the sense of like, you don't need any more ceremonies. You don't need any more activations. You need to really integrate your God presence. That's the only need that you have, is to integrate your God, Goddess presence within. Because then you'll realize, like, ceremonies, activations, initiations, connections with others, amplify that within you. And it's not going to be like a huge surprise. It's going to be a delightful experience rather than, oh my God, I just went and I was tripping on mushrooms, man. And I was like seeing all these things and it was like so cool. And there's an aspect to that where we can be delightfully surprised. But that should not be the normal. The normal is the mundane, the boring, the difficult. Grief is just part of natural life.
But making ceremony.
The ceremony can be this
Like
simple.
simple. And it's just like it's the daily practices. And it's just, what I do love about this kind of ceremonies is it also helps us tap into gratitude. And on the day-to-day, the mundane. You know, to have gratitude for making ceremony out of cooking dinner for your family.
Right. You don't need to have the TV playing while you're making dinner. You know, you can include, children want to be included. They don't want to be distracted. They don't want to be just shipped off to a boarding school. They want to be included because they're in that space of learning. And adults too. Adults want to be included. We're just big kids in grown suits with a little bit more responsibility and bills to pay. But we're still fucking children who want to engage with life and play with life and be curious.
It's true.
So let's start wrapping up this conversation and talk about how can we start to shatter the ego gently.
For me personally, again, it's being willing to ask those questions. Who am I? Why do I do these? And start to ask those questions. Like really start to dissect your own thought structure, your own belief systems. To me, like that is huge because when you start really asking those and sitting with those openly, open-mindedly, you know, and just really sit with them and be like, well, why do I do this? Why have I believed this? Oh, because I've been going to church since I was a little kid. Is this my parents or is this me? Who wants to have this experience? And so when you start asking those questions,
99.9% is not yours.
Yeah. And that is what destroys our inner stories and what they call ego. But like, to me, it's like it's our own inner stories, our own belief systems, our own.
In addition to that, I would say removing the option to go backwards.
Because it's so easy to.
It's so easy to. It's so easy to go back to what's familiar and comfortable. But you have to tell yourself that's just not a fucking option.
Yeah.
And stick with that.
Because, the lessons will keep repeating themselves. But then there's also like other options where sometimes we need to, because there's another aspect of that healing and perspective that we needed that we didn't realize we needed. Or we're cleaning up or connecting a karmatic thing, a situation, or we're trying to like heal something that needed to be healed. You know what I mean? Like that was like the missing stepping stone to move forward that you didn't realize you needed until it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I would love for you to share with us perhaps a recent experience that you've had around ego, the realization that you had in the moment and how you have transcended that.
Well, I haven't transcended it yet, but like I would say my perspective of being here in Oregon, you know, like I keep saying the people here suck, and I'm working on retelling my story.
Ouch.
Yeah, but like I have those that I love and I connect with, but like majority of the people in this town have not been kind to me in my experiences, but I can't base that on them. Like, you know what I mean? So like I have to like work through myself and just go back to being like, you know what? I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. I just need to focus on where I'm at. And if people don't say hi back to me, I don't care. I shouldn't expect it. Kind of like you do something kind for somebody, you shouldn't always expect a thank you or something because you're intentionally doing something for, you know what I mean? It feels really good to have that receptive come back to be like, thank you, but
we don't need it.
We don't need it. But that's what comes to my mind is to not need that. And to just step back and just observe more than attach to the reactions. You know what I'm saying?
I do hear what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
And because in reality, I really don't give a fuck what people think about me. I've gone to the point where I'm just like, my fuck's given or about gone. Like, I'm just doing the best I can. I'm not trying to live up to anybody's expectations, but like what I'm trying to tap into figuring out myself. You know what I mean? And doing the best I can along the way. You know what I mean?
And I believe your work with the goddesses as well has helped bring more integration and balance into your life, right? Wouldn't you say?
Big time. Big time.
I would love for you to speak into that.
Well, for instance, when I was at the gym yesterday and I was crying, my heart was hurting. And I can feel the goddesses put their hand on my shoulder and just help me breathe through it. You know, they're not here to fix it, but they're there to like let me know that we have you. It's okay. Breathe through this. And as I felt that, and I felt the breathing, and I did the breathing, I could feel it doing its medicine that it needed to, and then it just moved on. So there's like, and that's a small example. You know what I mean? Versus like intentionally calling them in and being like, I could really use some perspective on this, and then just pay attention to the signs or how they show up.
And it's important to note here that they showed up because you have created a relationship of trust with them.
Yes.
Okay, that's very important that I want to highlight for our listeners today of like, we can't just expect angels, guides, our higher, counsel to just step in and rescue you and be there for you when you're having a bad day. It's like a friendship, right? You have to cultivate that relationship and create one of reciprocity so that when you are having a bad day, they show up for you. And that's part of what I feel creates a lot of depression and confusion for people. They're like, oh, I went to the ceremony, I connected with this guide, and then I was having a bad day and I felt completely alone. Well, you haven't taken the time to cultivate a relationship with that guide.
Yeah.
With that spirit animal.
Or just to ask.
Or to even ask,
them
right, for help. You're just having like this expectation.
Yeah. It's like trying to like, why haven't I won the lotto? Did you go buy a ticket?
Right.
You're like, oh.
Right, exactly. Like we have to not only ask, but be open to receive that guidance. And be also like start working on that inner voice to figure out what is truly your voice and what is not your voice.
Yes. Thank you.
I'll be right back. I'll refill that while you continue.
Okay. But yeah, no, I just got sidetracked.
What is yours versus what is not?
Oh yeah. Gratitude. Thank you. Yeah, and it's like, but that's the practices of going within. Is this my stuff or is this someone else's? You know? Which can
there you
get
go.
very,
Everyone's good opinion.
And I will say, for all those out there, the dark side that really moves and runs this realm that we live in are masters at disguising themselves as being light.
Oh, 100%. Holy shit.
And all the things. So like, I would like to add that when you do ask for help and call in, I always say, so-and-so of the light. Like, because I already put my protection around me against the dark entities and things trying to get to me on the daily. But I always make sure I intentionally call in ancestors of the light, ancestors or goddess of like I always incorporate that.
And if I may add a small piece into that, I also added honoring of the light, honoring of the shadow.
Yeah, because you do got to honor that as well.
Right. And so I've incorporated that piece because we live in duality.
We do.
So I always say I call in guides who are in service to the highest of the light, honoring of the shadow. Because then that brings in that duality.
I like that because I always, in my brain, I always think my shadow is my own shadow. So I know it's already there. But I like that.
Because there's some angels and there's some entities who are just of the light and who are just of the shadow. And there's a time and place to work with them. But for the majority, it's so like it amuses me, but I don't laugh at this anymore because I've tapped into that compassion for that self. But it always amuses me when people are like, I don't like my shadow. It's evil. Your shadow's not fucking evil. Your shadow exists because you are light. The shadow, like if you do a meditation over the next 7 days, just like observe your shadows, right? Like the shadows exist because we are density and there's light reflecting off us. So the shadows exist because we are dense materials. You know, you don't have a shadow of air. Air doesn't have a shadow. Water doesn't have a shadow. The container that water is in has a shadow. The container that we are in has a shadow. I spent almost a year observing my shadow. That was one of my initiations when I was going through medicine woman training. Like literally spent a year, do not look at a mirror, only observe self through shadow. It was a life-changing experience for me. And try it for 7 days and then think about doing that for an entire year. That's some stamina. To not look at yourself in a mirror for almost a year. Oh yeah, that was quite an experience. But like, the shadow is not evil. It's not here to hurt you. It's not here to scare you. You know, those are stories. Again, these are stories that you've picked up from collective consciousness. The shadow is evil. It's bad. It's here to fuck shit up. Yeah, it's here to fuck up your denial and your delusion. It's here to shake you out of your atrophy.
You know, one of the best examples I've figured out to like is as far as analogy, but it helps with people that are also into Star Wars. But like you have the Jedi that are like the peacemakers, the light, and then you have the Sith, like the dark. But what rarely they ever talk about is the gray Jedi, the ones that know how to move between the two, and they're not the ones in the Jedi Council. Like they're usually the ones that get kind of kicked out.
We should make that a shirt. Be a gray Jedi.
I thought about it because they're more the Ronins. Ahsoka, the TV show Ahsoka.
So fucking awesome.
She's a great Jedi. Obi-Wan's teacher, he was known as more the Grey Jedi because he pushed those boundaries. But like, it's that learning how to.
I think I've just given myself a new title. I am a Grey Jedi.
Seriously, that's what I said.
I love it. Thank you.
But it makes sense in my brain because it's like it doesn't have to be black and white,
right?
Like you're saying. You know, it's like I think it's very dangerous. But that's the problem. That's why we're having this conversation because when you get into the spiritual realm, all you always hear is it's all love and light. Love and light is the answer. Love is everything. Like,
if that's all you hear, people, red flag, run.
Did you know authenticity it has 100%? Wait, what is it? Like the magnitude of authenticity is like 3 times more powerful than love. The vibration of love or something. Like it's, but that makes sense because if you have self-love, you're in your authentic self. So it's like a double magnification. Yeah. But yeah, so.
Yeah, but sometimes authenticity is not very loving.
No.
And sometimes love is not very authentic.
No.
Right. And so that's where that key of judgment comes in, right? Like it's important to, yes, discernment and to make those judgment calls for yourself. Like, is this authentic and is this loving? They're not synonymous. But authenticity can help you tap into unconditional love. Because now you're just being real and honest with yourself.
Yeah.
About yourself. Fuck other people and what they're going through and what they're doing. And in the Bible, yes, I know you're not into the Bible, but for those of you, who do read the Bible, and I still read the Testament, there is a scripture in the New Testament that says, judge not lest you be judged. Take the coal out of your eye before you look at another, or something like that. I'm completely butchering this phrase. Forgive me, Yeshua. But the point is, we have to remove our own illusions before we place the judgments upon others. And if you find those judgmental thoughts arising, there's that point, a checkpoint of awareness and growth potentially available to, I see this judgment arising within me. How is it showing up for me first? And then once you clear that, then ask, okay, am I making this judgment call because I'm in my mastery and I'm just observing the facts? Or am I in the ego and I'm trying to make myself feel better?
Right. I always tell people, I'm like, the more I know and learn and expand, the actual less I know.
Right.
Because all of a sudden it opens up way more questions and doors and perspectives. And you just realize that we don't have a fucking clue. We're always doing the best we can. Because there is so much.
And that's the beauty of the human experience, is to not know.
And be okay with it.
That's
the heart. That's integration.
That's integration, right? Know thyself. I mean, even fucking Shakespeare said it, who am I? What is the quintessence of man? Writers across time have expanded on this question. Beyond like the religious and spiritual community, this is the question that comes up. Know thyself. And that is ultimately how we start to really calibrate into our divinity, how we befriend the ego as a checkpoint, because that's how I engage with the ego. The ego is a checkpoint for me to see where I am in grace. Am I in grace and humility? Or am I in, this bubble of idolization and expectation?
Right.
Shadows are there to help strengthen our gifts and protect us from nonsense.
Yeah. So, like, it's funny because at first when I read this, I was like, oh my God, we're going to attack everything. But I'm glad that we didn't necessarily attack everything, but we were more like...
Deconstructing it.
Right. And just talking about experiences we've had and what we've witnessed in our own processing, especially you, because you've ran and organized ceremonies and circles.
I do.
I do. You taught me, like, I'm not ignorant, but I still am open to learning a lot of things. And when you and me did our ceremony that we did together, like, that was the first time I did group healing, energy healing. I've always done one-on-one. And afterwards, you sat with me and you gave me critique, and I was like so grateful for that because I didn't know. The people that I learned from and all the things, they never taught me that. So it's like being humble is also a key ingredient in this.
For both the student and the master.
Yes. Yes. Because during that time, we weren't able to communicate. So we both had different perspectives of like what was happening. And then when we shared, we were like, oh. And we were able to help each other figure out so that we could shift that for the next time. And that's part of the other processing of deconstructing, is having these conversations and being okay talking the dark shadow shit with people as well as the light. And to like normalize that even in our conversations. How many times you say, hi, how are you today? And people are fucking miserable and they're like, I'm good, I'm fine. You're like, no, you're not. How are you really? So it's just like, it's learning how to embrace that in the normal day-to-day as well.
And for those of you who are challenged with creating a container of conversation, I have developed a practice called the ABC check-in. We've used it. And it is a practice that I created to have those sacred spaces, because that's originally what I stepped into. I didn't really step into shamanism. It got thrust into it. It dragged me by the legs. But once I accepted that, I realized like there needed to be a container for communication, and I developed this model of communication, and I gleaned it from tantric practices. And it's a container where you can really talk about both the good. It starts with A, appreciation, but there's sections of B, boundaries. C, clarities and concerns. D, desires. It's a container of really engaging with potentially uncomfortable topics. So if you're interested, I'll put it's in my online market shop. It's called the ABC Check-In. And if you have questions about it, reach out. But I really encourage everyone to have an ABC check-in with themselves. I have ABC check-ins with myself every single week. I sit in front of a mirror and I talk to myself. I appreciate myself. I check in with my boundaries. I get clear on like what happened during the week, and I have these weekly check-ins with myself. And I think back to a date I went to last year, and one of the questions, this first date question that he asked me was, how do you deal with conflict? Which I thought was a really good and intelligent question.
That is.
And in that moment, I just immediately chuckled because I realized as he asked me that question that I don't really experience conflict as long as I use the ABC check-in. When I don't use the ABC check-in consistently, that's that developing of trust and relationship with myself, with the people in my life, that's when shit hits the fan in a really bad way. So it's like you were saying, it's so important to have those conversations, yes, with others, but you're not going to be able to have those conversations with others until you're comfortable having those conversations with yourself.
I like the mirror practice.
Yeah, the mirror practice is really great because then you get to see your facial expressions. You get to, notice the discomfort that arises when you're being seen.
That's interesting because since my Kundalini awakened, I have a really hard time looking at myself in the mirror. It's been 2 years. I don't like looking myself in the mirror. I glance, I trim my beard, I do what I need to do, and then I'm done looking at myself in the mirror. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, no, I take time every day while I'm doing my face to look at the mirror and to see my lines. I think I've talked about it in previous episodes where I have this central practice that I do after the shower, and I sit in front of the mirror and I connect with my body. But at least once a week, I sit in front of the mirror and have an honest conversation with myself of like, hey, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, let's like talk with myself. And sometimes I'll engage my inner child in that way. Like, hey, little me, what's going on? Hey, teenager, I hear, you were raging this week. What's really going on? And learning to have these conversations with yourself is what's going to help you strengthen in your sovereignty. It's going to help you integrate the humanness of your being. Because yes, you are a spiritual, eternal being, occupying a temporary human vessel, yet you are in this human vessel. And that human vessel needs care, needs attention.
That's true.
Otherwise, it's going to fall apart, and then you're going to be depressed, disassociated, disconnected, and swimming in delusion.
It's true. That's a good one. I was going to ask what would be good tips, but you just did. Yes. So that would be a good...
Right, yeah. Just have those honest conversations with yourself. How is my mind today? How is my heart today? Do I want to wear this underwear? Why do I even have these socks that I don't even like? We think about spiritual work as deep shadow work and cord cutting and going really intense. But really, it's about taking care of yourself. And that to me was this huge realization after over 4 years of going into deep initiations after initiation, back to back to back, journey and integration. I've realized that the most powerful thing, the most spiritual thing I could do was take care of my physical body and take care of my home. Because then I'm just living in peace.
Yeah.
And I'm not constantly running away from life.
And what a lot of the practices also don't teach is the fact that when you do that, your energy ripples into the consciousness. And so you're actually doing a lot of work and healing by healing and taking care of yourself. You don't always have to go and physically serve other people.
By being of service to self, you are of the highest service.
I think that's a good way to
close it.